And obviously they're in Edmonton, and now you got all these cell phones everywhere. Like, this is kind of example, not exhibit A, but kind of, and look, I love playing in Canada. A lot of guys do, but when things aren't going well and stuff like this starts happening, and Stuart Skinner wants to go get a steak, and then somebody's saying, you stink, you can't go get a meal or something. Like, this is why some guys don't mind playing in Florida.
Welcome back to another edition of the Clearing the Crease podcast powered by BODOG. What's happening, everybody? We are now into the month of December, and we are your line mates. The Calder Trophy winner, the Razor, Andrew Raycroft. We've got the Stanley Cup winner, Commie, in the house, Mike Commodore, and I'm James Cebulski, just keeping it real with the rest of the crew. We've got our Saturday night special Clearing the Crease podcast picks coming your way in a matter of moments. But, gentlemen, here we are, holiday season. Razor, all the holiday decor is up now. You survived the holidays at Thanksgiving?
Yeah, the tree's up. Survived Thanksgiving. Tough couple of days, really kind of chased it. Kind of got away from me a little bit, especially on the Friday, just a full day. So yeah, now it's Christmas. My daughter was in the attic the day after. So stuff's down and we're ready for Christmas now. Bring it on. The holidays are here.
Commie, I was still laughing at that social post from last week with the show with here's Razor talking about, oh, my daughter's all fired up. She wants the decor up now. And you're just like, well, my Thanksgiving ain't none of that.
It looks a little different around here. I don't have anybody looking for decorations or anything. But the holidays were good for me too. I went to Utah. I flew in there on Tuesday. I did the Nash cast for Montreal in Utah. The night before, I went out and had a beer with Marty St. Louis. Marty St. Louis said he would love to come back on the show, so we can get him. Yep, he's back. We can talk about this more later at another time, but you get talking hockey with Marty St. Louis, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, and I understand the game. Like, don't get me. I played it for 14 years. I'm sitting there listening to him, and I'm like, this guy's on another. I kept it to myself because I didn't want to look stupid. But I'm like, this guy's talking about things that it's on a completely different level from how I look at the game. So anyways, I think Montreal's in a really good spot. Well, we've said that before. But yeah, then came back, went and saw a couple former teammates, went over to Chuck Kobasu's house for Thanksgiving. Nice. He invited me. Yeah, it was me, Chuck Kobasu, Stefan Yell. Yeah, and then actually, a Vancouver guy came over too, Tom Gallardi, the guy that owns the Dallas Stars. We were going to golf the next day.
Quite the crew.
Yeah. And then all
mix of first rounders, clutch playoff performers. Oh yeah, and a billionaire.
Yeah,
or a team, or someone who owns a team worth $1 billion. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know what? I looked it up after. I'm like, God, these franchises. He bought that thing out of bankruptcy.
Oh, I was there when he bought it. I was in Dallas when he bought it. The league owned us the year before. It was a goddamn disaster.
That's crazy. I forgot that. I forgot
that's right. The league owns you guys.
Nothing. And then
that's crazy.
And then he came in, Jimmy Light back, and now, I go ahead with the numbers, but it must be bananas.
He bought it for $240. And it, just a simple Google search. And so I'm sure it's in the ballpark. It's worth $2.05 billion or valued at.
Go. Yeah. 10x 240.
When can
and the big reason why that came about in the first place was because Gallardi got essentially, based on the story and who you want to talk to, got squeezed out or screwed over by the Aqualinis in Vancouver.
I think
trying to buy the Canucks.
There is no question. I think they might be mortal enemies. Those two.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think let's just say I think Tom enjoys beating the Vancouver Canucks. We'll put it that way. He's got those. I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, he's got those days circled. Oh, God, if the Stars ever played the Canucks in the playoffs, oh, boy.
Yeah.
I want to go to those games because that would be fun.
Yeah.
But
It'd be a whole new meaning to money on the board, right?
Oh yeah. No kidding.
Each player was gifted a Lamborghini for winning that first round series.
That's tampering, C-ball. We don't do that here. That's
we don't do that. Yeah, it's fair.
$1 million of goal game winners.
Allegedly.
Lots to get to. Okay, let's dive in. It's the Saturday night special on the Clearing the Crease podcast. Let's get right to our picks for this week. Coming up on Saturday, there's a lot of things I wanted to get to. We went 2-1. We were right there. Razor.
I was so like I looked at mine last this morning. I like it didn't feel like Saturday, right? Like it. I just like I was all screwed. It felt like Wednesday this week on Saturday. Woke up, I'm like, Commie wins, C-ball wins. I'm like, oh, there's no chance I won. There's no chance. Sure enough, shootout, Buffalo Sabres winning a shootout against Minnesota after being up 2-1 in the third period. So I apologize. I let everybody down this week. That's
every Buffalo fan right now that listens to this show or watches this show, whether it's on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify or on the Apple Podcasts. You know that the Sabres have pooched us on these Saturday night specials several times this year, and yet we continue to go back to the well. At some point, we're going to figure out that Buffalo's not a bad pick every once in a while to play. But actually, Minnesota was leading in that game because I checked in at the third. And the funny thing was, I used some of my BODOG poker tournament winnings to actually play that. I was like, you know what? I think I really like this pick this week on all three of us, and laid it down, and then it was kind of fumbled it at the end there.
It's a new week. It's a new week.
Clean slate. So with that in mind, let's start. I'm going with the Minnesota Wild. Razor. I'm going back to the well here with the mini. Minnesota in Vancouver on Saturday night. The Canucks are home to Utah the night prior. That's a tough back-to-back for the Nucks. So give me the Wild in Van City.
All right, I'm taking the Edmonton Oilers. Another hockey night in Canada. Extravaganza against the Winnipeg Jets. The Connor Hellebuck-less Winnipeg Jets are at home the night before. They're flying into a new time zone out to Edmonton. McDavid and Draisaitl are going to get on a roll here. This is the time. Edmonton Oilers. It is over the Jets.
Right. Wild Oilers.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit of opposite. We haven't won anything yet, but we're not going. It's not like somebody could just fade our picks and just go opposites because they lose too, because we're always going 2-1. But so I'm going to switch a little something up. Instead of going against the back-to-back team, you said Utah's playing in Vancouver on Friday night. And then on Saturday night, they're going to visit the Flames at the Dome. Take my new team, the Utah Mammoth. Favorite. Yeah, they are. They're becoming my favorite. And, I want the Flames to lose this year. So I'm going to take the Utah to beat the Flames Saturday night in Calgary.
Love it.
Woo!
And in Canada. I like that.
Yes,
all Western Canada. The late dog.
We're all rolling late. So stay up late and see if you get paid. But there you go. You've got Edmonton, you got Minnesota, and you got Utah as your 3 Saturday night Clearing the Crease special picks for BODOG. Commie, I want to go back to you for a second here because I was dying on X where you were just laying into Jake the Snake, Jacob Voracek. What is the story? Because you guys were teammates in. I mean, not only that, you guys were teammates in Columbus, and I wasn't sure. I was like, is this a beef or are these guys buds? And it was all in French. That was the other thing. It was a full-on rant en français, monsieur.
Wait. I don't know how to say lots of skills, but I have a little French to me. Used to be in French immersion. I think we talked about that, but I was in Utah. And I, pulled into the hotel and I heard a couple people speaking French, right? There were some Montreal fans in town for the game. And so whenever I kind of think about it, I kind of like going online and I will, tweet out in French. Look, it sucks trying to write French when your phone's English. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the excuse. Trust me.
Autocorrect. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I forgot. I used to be able to do this stuff in my sleep. But that was a long time ago. So, I'm trying to type out the words. And I will say, like, if I get totally, totally stuck, I'll be like, God damn, I can't remember that one word, like, at all. Then I will get a little help. But I'd say 99% of it, I'm just kind of winging it. So I like going out there. It seems like, my Montreal Canadian fans like it. They laugh at it. to get back to Voracek, Voracek tells me to shut up. Jake and I are very good buddies. We were roommates in Columbus. I was his first roommate in the NHL. The first thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was his first roommate.
So you corrupted him.
I am not taking credit for this guy. This guy is on his own planet. But the first thing they said to me, so they try, I was a veteran guy in Columbus, my first year there, his rookie year, I'm looked upon to be like one of the leaders. So they put me with their star prospect. This Jake Voracek was a player.
I thought that was a good idea, Razor.
Yeah. First instructions. Hey, Mike. I'm like, yeah. You're going to room with Voracek. I'm like, yeah, sounds good. He seems like a good kid. He seems like a little bit of a dirtball, but yeah, he seems like a good guy. First instructions. Hey, don't let him eat everything in the mini bar. Don't let him touch the mini. I'm like, what? He likes to eat, and he likes to eat M&Ms. Keep an eye on him. Don't let him eat all the M&Ms. I'm like, okay. So anyways, I got down. I would still, we had fun with it. I did make sure that he wasn't just plowing through the mini bar, but I would like toss an M&M at him once in a while. Like, oh, here you go. You get a treat, obviously messing around, but Jake and I are buddies. But we like going at each other a little bit. That was the first time it happened in French, but yeah, he's a great dude. Took me on a great golf trip. Like, I hadn't seen Jake in forever. And, for his 1,000th game, Scott Hartnell took him on a golf trip out to Charleston, and I was invited out on it. There was a plane, there was everything. Like, it was awesome. So, yeah, we like going back and forth. And as much as I'd like to try to sell it as like a beef, it's not at all. I couldn't even come close to that. Jake is great.
That's funny. It was just like, it just turned out, kind of come on, and it's like the first thing that pops up on your thread, and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And it's just like this chain of posts and off, say,
yeah.
Like, wow.
I knew that one. Each Sal's check, each dirty check. Makes me laugh. I was dying laughing when then I read the responses.
I was dying laughing just him saying "shut up." Like that was just so perfect. Just to shut up.
He's sitting over there in Czech. Who knows what time it was there? Exactly. I was like a couple beers deep. I just had a couple beers with Marty. Anyways, whatever. Perfect. Yeah, he's a good guy.
It's the sense of humor on the Czechs oftentimes too. There's a lot of, there could be some salty ones. I mean, yes, it's like anybody around the world, but yeah, I remember Yuri Hudler. Would you have played with Hudler in
yeah, I'm with buddies with in Detroit. Yeah.
So he's at the World Juniors. This is about 20 years ago, and so he had made Detroit, as a youngster, as a teenager, and then Detroit agrees to send him off to the World Juniors to go play for now Czechia.
Yeah.
Anyway, at the time, and so I'm doing an interview with him. This is 2004 World Juniors, and I said, oh, have you talked to? And this is when Detroit's still stacked with Yzerman and Shanahan and Lidstrom and all that. And I said, oh, have you talked? Like, did any of your Detroit teammates say anything to you with respect to the World Juniors? And his English was pretty limited at the time, right? And so he's still a youngster, but he just basically says. Yeah, he said, the guys said to me, Canada is going to kick your effing Czech. It's an amazing line from like an 18, 19-year-old kid, right? And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So, we're getting ready to book our satellite time, technology back in the day. You send our story back to Canada, halfway around the world. And all of a sudden I've got like my phone ringing off the hook in this television station in Helsinki, and all of a sudden my phone's blowing up, and it's basically from like the Czech PR department. They're like, please don't run that clip. Please don't run that clip. They don't want to start like an international incident. He was like, he was just joking, and then I don't think he understood the context, but it was such a good line. And it was like, okay, let him off the hook. He's just a teenager. But at the time it was like, man, it was such a good jerk.
I think we should have ran it. So. I think that's great.
Anyway, we're trying to be nice, but they're just reminded of that in that moment. Razor, I want to talk to you about the Oilers for a second here. They've been a recurring theme pretty much since we launched this podcast, but it seems to be the focus seems to continually be back on goaltending. Why this team hasn't been able to win in the Stanley Cup final the last 2 years. Here we are again. It's the same duo with Skinner and Pickard, and for the Oilers' shortcomings, it's always going, blame the goalie, blame the goaltending. Skinner's not good enough. Look at the numbers. Pickard, it's like, man, you've got these nuclear weapons up front with McDavid and Draisaitl. Blame the goalie, blame the goalie. As a goalie, and you played in some markets with some scorching hot spotlights. What is that like when the easy narrative, and sometimes it's, fair or foul, it's blame the goalie? What is that like as the goalie in that situation?
Well, there's a few different levels to it. I think just in general, if you've made it to the NHL as a goaltender, you're used to being blamed for every loss. Like you've somehow compartmentalized that growing up through minor hockey, through junior hockey or college hockey, and that you just know you're blamed if you lose and you're the hero if you win. That's just, you don't make it that far unless you somehow can handle that and deal with that. But and it's the big but is when you get to that level and you're again, like this was me in Toronto, right? This was me in Toronto. The first year I was, I played 72 games and won. And, I knew everyone blamed me for missing the playoffs, but I was able to deal with that for the most part because I knew I put everything I had into the season. Like I won 37 times. I played 72 times. There was a bunch of games that we could go through that we didn't win.
And Razor, just to interject on that, you tied or set a franchise record for most wins in team history, despite being on the outside there.
Yeah, I was tied for the record. I mean, 37's a lot. Like it doesn't matter what season it is. It's a lot of wins. So and we tied. We literally lost on a tiebreaker to get into the playoffs. But again, I knew everyone blamed me, but I also knew like kind of where I stood. But the next year was all on me. Like I blame once you start blaming yourself, then you're cooked. Like you have no chance. You have absolutely no chance. And I couldn't even play. I was such a shell of myself looking back at that second year. Like I could barely tie my skates most mornings. It was brutal mentally. I don't think Stuart, and to bring all of that back to this, I don't obviously Skinner's not at that point, but it is becoming a long time. It's becoming a long time where you really kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off. I give him a lot of credit for getting to the finals twice and getting pulled in the playoffs and still coming back. And like, that's a lot. And it's been pretty impressive how mentally tough he's been through times. And he's also from Edmonton, which adds a whole nother layer to it. Like his parents, his friends, his buddies. Like that was a big, like my buddies would go to work and their coworkers would give them shit about how much I sucked, like that's like starts to add up funny, if you can't handle it. Yeah. Like you start feeling guilty for everybody. I felt guilty for my parents. I felt guilty. My buddies had to deal with like, I can't imagine that's not getting close to that point in Edmonton. I think he'll be fine if he gets dealt. I think he goes somewhere else. I'm surprised that they're all willing to go through this over and over again. I really think that the tipping point's been hit, like giving up 8 at home the other day. It just, I don't know. I'm not close enough to really know, but I have to imagine it's seeping into the room a little bit where everyone gets to look and blame that guy. And if he isn't 100% sure of himself, even if it's 99, it gets really hard to play.
So when you beat yourself up, the example you're talking about the following season that you're feeling it, when you're beating yourself up, do you see that in the room that guys start looking at you differently then?
I don't think that really, like, guys do a pretty good job of sheltering that. I think, Kami would say like they're certainly saying stuff behind everybody's back, but I think around you're all on a team, right? You are trying to build each other up. And I always, but that also, if you're thinking the wrong way, then that becomes pity, and that's not going to help either. No. So it just has to feel like the guys are on a little bit of eggshells out there, because that's typically what happens until you're completely out and done. But certainly Edmonton's not worried, doesn't want to be in that situation.
Kami, you don't necessarily have to name names if it doesn't work, but certainly not looking to blast anybody. But what about from as a player in front? Like, what's that like when you know a goalie's either going through it or he's kind of, he's either losing the room or he's in a funk. Yeah.
I mean, look, Razor touched on a lot of great points there. At the end of the day, you're on a team. And so you're trying to, this is what you do for a living. This is a team. So like, I'd like to think if I was in that room, I'd be telling the other defenseman, like, hey, and not just the defenseman. I mean, defense is the team. The forwards need to do things too. But like, I would be telling the other defenseman, like, hey, like we are blocking some shots here, and like we need to play well. Like, put a focus on, like, let's help him out. Like, I don't know. I would be trying to do, play as hard and as good defensively, and to try to get him going, and less chances. I'd be trying to pump him up, like, verbally or whatever. Like, I don't know. I just don't like if it gets to the point where you're like, man, this guy stinks, then you got big time problems. So I don't know. I would be trying to like Razor said, like, you can tell when a guy's down, and obviously they're in Edmonton, and now you got all these cell phones everywhere. Like, this is kind of example, not exhibit A, but kind of, and look, I love playing in Canada. A lot of guys do, but when things aren't going well and stuff like this starts happening, and Stuart Skinner wants to go get a steak, and somebody's saying, you stink, you can't go get a meal or something. Like, this is why some guys don't mind playing in Florida, because you can go, if things aren't working, you don't hear about it. But it is like, you just can't get away from it. And it has been kind of the narrative for a long time, which I think is unfair. But there are also some moments, we remember in the finals and a couple of goals where it's like, man, that was not good. And I'd love to blame that on somebody else, but can't really. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. I'm getting messages online. I got some Edmontonians that follow me or whatever. Hey, who do you think we should get for a goalie? I'm like,
oh, it's nonstop. Yeah.
Oh man, like direct messaging me. I'm like, hey man, I don't know. I'm not the goalie whisperer. Not sure. Cap situation. I don't know, but they're getting a little ornery up there. There's no question.
Yeah, I think it's well, and I guess it's just they've seen the act before, and and there's been no growth, right? And I'm sure that it's harder to get out of these situations when you're going through it, and mentally it just becomes a tidal wave, because we're also just in a wave, and look, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. But social media too, Razor. I mean, that was probably something. It was still in its infancy when you're talking about those seasons in Toronto or whether in Boston or whatever. But like, this is a whole different. Like, it is hard to kind of turn out it's harder and harder to block the noise.
No, of course. That, like, I'm 20 years from that now, right? It's a long time. But the thing is too and probably different than 20 years ago is narratives don't change nearly as much now. Like, it doesn't. He could literally not give up a goal the rest of this regular season. Literally not one more goal. Literally have the greatest regular season of all time. If he gives up 5 at home in game 1, we're back to square one. And that's the issue. That's really the issue they have, is that this isn't going away. He could win 12 games in a row in the playoffs, not give up 1 goal in those 12 games. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, he gives up 4 and loses 4-1. Skinner stinks. He stinks. Well, I can't believe they let this guy go this far. Like, it just, that's the issue I have now, is I don't see a scenario where the narrative changes, where people won't blame that because they have McDavid, and he's just not going to get it. McDavid or Draisaitl are not going to get it. It's going to be Bush or it's going to be Skinner.
I got one more thing on the Oilers from me. Yeah, and maybe it's just what I see. I don't know. Maybe it is out there, but I don't really see it. One thing I don't think gets talked about. It does. I kind of notice this. The Florida Panthers have gone to the finals 3 years in a row, right? They've won the last 2 Stanley Cups, and then it comes up, hey, they played a lot of hockey. Well, the Edmonton Oilers have gone to the finals the last 2 years as well, and played just as many games. They just didn't win. And you never really hear like, well, the Oilers play a lot of hockey too. Then you mix in these 3 games in 4 nights, this compressed schedule with the Olympics and all this. Like, these guys have played a lot of hockey as well. It just doesn't really come up because they didn't win, which is kind of weird. And, maybe just nobody wants to talk about it. I don't know why that is, but I mean, some of those Edmonton Oilers got to be tired as well. They have played a boatload of hockey. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to suck it up and you got to find ways to win games. I'm not giving them an excuse, but those guys have played a lot of hockey. So.
It's funny to even bring that to a football analogy. Listening to a conversation with a couple of Philadelphia Eagles writers and people that cover the team, and they've talked about the Eagles' struggles, especially as of late, where it hasn't always been pretty in Philadelphia, despite being the Super Bowl champions, and they still got a winning record, but just not really feeling like they've had an off season. And Edmonton really hasn't had that. Florida's done a wonderful job of weathering the storm, but they're into the weeds this year right now with a few points out of the playoffs. help is on the way with two absolute studs. I mean, Kachuk sooner than Barkov, but it's that starts taking a toll, especially in this generation with the amount of hockey that you're playing, right?
Yeah.
So the other one I want to hit you guys with, we'll stay in Western Canada, and the news over the past week that the Canucks are selling. That they're kind of there's a for sale sign on some sweaters right now in that room, which certainly does not bode well for the future of Quinn Hughes based on where things are at with whether he commits long term. But what's that like within the room, guys? Whether you guys have been in a situation where management has basically conceded that, listen, we are listening to offers. If you need something, we might have something you like. So what is that? Kami, maybe start with you on this one, but
yeah, sure.
Have you been in that situation? What is that like when you all of a sudden hear management not exactly give everybody a ringing vote of confidence to say, hey, if somebody wants to take some of these hacks, get them out of here.
Right. I mean, I got traded or moved pretty much every possible way there was. I don't remember a situation of like sitting there and the GM just basically said you're for sale. But I do know, I think you would be thinking about it. It depends in my opinion, it depends how things are going personally. If you're not liking what's going on, but you're still kind of playing pretty well, now this is coming from a guy who never had kids and didn't have to move a family or anything like that as well. Like I get that part of it. That's a whole nother animal that would be like, your wife better be awesome. And so I don't get that. But as a single guy, like I'd be like, oh man, okay, well, it's time for something new. And you could be excited. But at the same time as well, it's like, I mean, I'm sure there are a few guys in the Vancouver Canucks that enjoy it in Vancouver and that are playing fairly well there. Like there's some guys sitting there that, man, like I know things aren't working out great team wise, but this is a good spot for me. Now that would be a little nerve wracking because you never know. I mean, these trades, yes, it can work out great, but it can also not work out so well. And every time you kind of get moved, there's kind of less, what's the word I'm looking for? You get traded. It's better for you if the more people in the organization have it look good if you do well. The more and more you get traded, the kind of less that you have to, it's not working out. Let's get rid of them. And then sooner or later, you're like, well, this guy's been traded 4 times. And then next thing you know, you're in Russia playing in your last year and then you're golfing.
Unless your name's Mike Sillinger.
Right. Well, yeah, unless your name's Mike Sillinger, then you can knock off third of the league. You play for 11 teams. It's 11 or 12 and you're good to go. But
you're fine.
Can't be a great feeling though either. And Jimmy's not scared to make moves.
No, that's the thing.
He is not shy. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. If you're going to blow it, I know it.
Well, if you're going to talk about it, you got to do it now. There's no backing off of that. And it definitely leaks into the room and guys start thinking, okay, you start sizing yourself up with everybody else. And then you start sizing yourself up throughout the league. Okay. But what works? Where does it go? Who needs me? Who needs a guy like me? Who could want what can we sort out? It was like that in Toronto for me the second year when Skillsy got traded to Pittsburgh. Hal Gill got traded, and then they went on to the Cup. That was like one of those ones where I was jealous of that. Like we were going down, and he was my buddy, and I had no one to hang out. Like not no one. He was the guy I ran with all the time. We were roommates, and so for him to leave was sad for me. Mm-hmm. That was the same year they asked Mats if he would be willing to get dealt at the deadline, which of course he was, no way. I'm Mr. Toronto Maple Leaf, and no, I'm not going anywhere. But that year, everyone was kind of looking around saying, where is it better for me? And of course, the logistics of things are difficult. But if you're going to go do it for a playoff run at the end of the season, and if you're on the fence just a little bit, there's certainly some guys in Vancouver talking to their agents saying, where could I go and who's interested, and go make some phone calls for me at this point if the GM's already talking about it.
Does that create a group of individuals then that guys are almost looking out for themselves? Like, I'm looking for my own stats.
Everybody's always kind of doing that anyways. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's enough of that already. Of course, the Stanley Cup winning team, when you're in the playoffs, you're not thinking that way. But I think if you're just kind of, even if you're in Nashville and the GM hasn't said it, you're kind of doing that already. You're done. You're not making the playoffs. You're not going to the finals. So you're kind of looking out for number one already. That's typically why teams that get out early don't make it, because it's so hard to come back together as a team, because guys start looking out for themselves as soon as they're 6 games under 500. Survival.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, not a fun time to be for within the Vancouver Canucks room as an Oiler goalie. Life on the West Coast right now for everywhere Western Canada.
It ain't great in Calgary either, but nobody expects anything, so it's all right.
No, but I mean, maybe they set themselves up for, it's the Gavin McKenna draft this year, right? I mean, if there was ever a year to stink, this is the year. Let's go to Don't Puck It Up. Time to Don't Puck It Up. Anybody want to start this one? I'm happy to kick it going.
I'll go.
All right.
Don't get injured anymore, Olympians. If you're on the hook for the Olympics, it's now December. And now the teams are getting made this month. Stay out of the corners a little bit. Stay away from the injuries. Stay away from the knee injury. Don't puck it up. Don't get injured if you're on an Olympic roster. You think you're on a team right now, because it's got to be nerve-wracking if you're one of those guys, and staying healthy is going to be paramount.
Razor, we talked about this last week, and I just did a random scan just through the league in terms of how many players were injured. Like as of late November, there's over 100 players in the league listed on some form of IR or injured list, or just day to day, week to week, whatever. Maybe over 100 players right now.
Nuts. Stay healthy out there, kids.
Yeah, put bubble wrap on everybody. I'll tell you what, Commie, I'll jump onto this one. This is a shameless plug, but don't puck it up. Me.
Yeah.
Oh. I am joining the broadcast team with the PWHL, calling my first broadcast on Saturday between the Vancouver Golden Eyes and the New York Sirens, and it is my debut appearance. I have been a media whore over the years, working for Sportsnet with TSN, showing up on Amazon Prime recently, The Score, Headline Sports.
You do get around.
You guys talk about being journeymen over the years. There's the media equivalent, radio, all of it, you name it. Well, I am making my debut on the mothership, the public broadcaster, on CBC Saturday afternoon, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific time, as the sun shines on my face here at sunrise here on the West Coast. Sabalski, don't puck it up. People are watching.
You're going to be great.
Yep.
Thanks, buddy. I needed that.
Yeah, you're going to be great.
Thanks.
It's good to have a little nerves, though.
Yes.
Hey, look, I'm going to I don't want to pile on, and Razor already talked about this last week, but this headline popped up. So I couldn't think of anything else. So no plan B for Olympic Hockey Arena. And I'll just summarize this article. But a test event for the Santa Giulia Ice Hockey Arena, the new 16,000 seat venue that is being built on the outskirts of Milan, had to be moved. And the new test events won't be until January 9th.
Oh, mama.
There is no plan B. That's a quote from Andrea Franchisi. Just to say these test events, I'm trying to give the highlights of this article. Usually, new Olympic venues are tested at least the year before hosting medal events. And with a large hockey arena, it's not just about the ice and making sure the playing surface is ready and safe. It's also about testing the concession stands, the bathrooms, and everything else inside the arena. No precise date. Anyways, don't puck this up, whoever the head of it is. This does not look good. I mean,
you got a disaster coming.
Let's say they get them out there and they got 16,000 people there and half the bathrooms don't work.
It's going to be awesome.
It's not just about the ice now, right?
Waiting for the crash now.
Oh, man.
Well,
I might go over there just to see how this turns out.
On that note, I think we all need to go test a bathroom at this point.
Yes.
Great discussion here this week, boys. Don't forget, we're back next week. You're Clearing the Crease podcast, Saturday night special, courtesy of BODOG. Once again, we've got Edmonton we've got Utah, and we've got Minnesota. There's your 3 winners for this weekend. Lock it in. We're coming through this weekend here. We better not puck it up, at least on our end. He's Razor. He's Kami. I'm Cebulski. We'll see you next time on the Clearing the Crease podcast, powered by BODOG. See ya.